Fascism is just the government control of the means of production in cooperation with large corporations. So it's not communism, it's not the ownership of the means of production, but it is government direction of the means of production with the cooperation of large industrial units. And so there was a lot of theories that having these large monopolies, because of the economies of scale that are created by the corporate form, the system could be much more efficient. In the 1915s, Frederick Taylor talked about scientific management. And so the idea of centralized scientific management and Max Weber's theory of bureaucracy as a way of carrying out much more efficient and rational management of large economic resources, you can see why it was attractive. It actually took people like Ludwig von Mises and Friedrich von Hayek to explain why that kind of central planning literally can't work, because it can't get the information that it would need in the absence of prices that give you information about the relative scarcity of resources. So with hindsight, yes, we can say it was a bad idea, but I'm not sure you can say things were going wrong. It was an experiment that everyone in the world was trying, and it was probably inevitable that that was going to happen. It's just that in hindsight, yes, that's where things went wrong.
So that sounds as well like what you were just describing at the end of your thoughts there was technocracy, or the roots of technocracy. But now here's the thing, Michael, is that we do have the ability to collect large amounts of data, and we have the ability to do it with AI. So do you see that this kind of tendency towards technocracy that we seem to be leaning into now, this experiment, in your words, seems to be kind of happening again in another way? Do you think that there's any possibility of success, or do you think that the same lessons that we learned from Hayek and Mises apply here?
I wrote something for AIER not long ago about this. A big difficulty that we have is that Mises and Hayek and others called this debate the socialist calculation debate. And so what is required is you need to calculate the relative value of different resources so as to decide where to allocate them. So suppose there's some production process we've agreed we want to engage in. One way of making it, let's call it a widget. One way of making the widget takes 10 pounds of iron. The other takes 1 ounce of gold. Which one uses less resources? Well, we could have a database that tells us the location and amount of all the available iron and the location and amount of all the available gold and all the other resources. So we could have a database that has all the information about resources. What we don't know is prices. Prices emerge as a product of the bargaining over subjective values that people engage in buying and selling. I have plans and purposes. You have plans and purposes. Prices adjust dynamically as a result of us engaging in commercial activity. It's not an input. It's an output of commercial activity. If you take the commercial activity away, it doesn't matter how much computing power you have. You cannot calculate relative prices. So I have claimed that it would have been better. I looked up the German word that Mises used, and it could be translated as calculation, but it's probably better translated as generation. What needs to happen is you have to have a system that generates the information, which is completely different. The generation of prices is what is required in a large decentralized system. I am afraid, though, that your question hits on something important. We are going to have to relearn that lesson in long, dreary decades, because we believe that, well, we've got all this new computing power and this is a calculation problem. It's not. The information is generated as a result of commercial activity, and there is literally no substitute for that. It's impossible. It's not difficult for a planning system to mimic those results.